diets require work. It requires dedication. No matter what. I mean, you could just look at it from a scientific, statistical standpoint, like energy in, energy out, consumption, stuff like it's pretty straightforward.
If you just don't fill up as much, then you'll just tap into the reserves, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens. If
and burn a little bit of energy. Exercise a bit, go for a walk, ride a bike, get on a treadmill, whatever have sex too.
The best diets that I've had, I think I lost 30 or 40 pounds by getting full body radiation.
I don't recommend that for everybody. Well, crack might be a solution for losing weight. Hey kids, this is crack.
I'm a big proponent of excuse me.
COVID.
That's a good diet plan. Yeah. Why would you make fun of somebody who's working to better themselves?
That was exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, because I've seen very heavy set people like riding bicycles or jogging and stuff, and I've known people who would laugh at that, and it's like, why? There's no like shortcut to that, aside from crack, but
or radiation.
All right, welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we'd really love it if you'd like and share this video and subscribe to the channel and do all that good stuff that helps us content creators out. If you want to give us money, Casey might talk about it later, a little more directly, but yeah.
Yeah, I am Casey Rochford, and I would like to invite you to become a patron at patreon.com/KSMVidcast, where you can get the songs that we write, which you'll find at the end of the episode. You can also get them on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all that good stuff, because you're a huge fan of the show and you should buy the music. So, what do you want to talk about tonight, Eric?
Well, one of my coworkers for a while has been, he's decided to undertake a really hardcore diet and try to lose weight, be more healthy and eat better and all that stuff. Because he used to eat like massive amounts of food, lots of junk food and stuff. Now he's eating salads and everything, and it's actually working. Of course, he's sticking to it, which I think is one of the major things that you have to do. But yeah, I know that we had in our list of topics to discuss, dieting, just in general, I think.
Well, yeah, kind of like specifically like fad diets, or maybe just like maybe kind of like myths about dieting in general would be kind of good to touch on, because I mean, there's a couple facets to that, right? There's the lose weight quick by doing certain things or not doing certain things, right? Yeah. That kind of diet. But then there's also, a lot of people that think diet fixes everything. Like there's one dude I was talking to that thought you could cure diabetes with a better diet, and I'm like,
Well,
I mean, like type 2, kinda, but you never really cure it. And second of
yeah.
all, type 1 is like genetic, so I mean,
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess it depends on what it is, what malady you're attempting to resolve through dieting.
yeah,
I think there are some things that for sure changing what you eat could definitely impact that. But
yeah,
the idea that it's some kind of magic bullet cure all kind of thing,
yeah. It goes
yeah,
into the woo territory,
yeah,
you know, kind
yeah,
of kind of like a chiropractic is good in a mechanical sense, but to think that it can cure the common cold by snapping vertebrae four or whatever, like that's
yeah.
nah.
Well, yeah, like the fad diet kind of thing really irks me because it's sort of like get rich quick schemes. You know,
Yep.
if it's something super simple, like oh, this one easy trick, all you have to do is do this thing, and your life is going to be better. It's probably a lie. Like it's probably not real. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's a pretty good rule of thumb for living your life. And yeah, but not that every idea, maybe some of the things, um, all of the fad diets that I've seen kind of seem to have a basis in truth. Like there's some factual reason why like they make sense on a surface level, but that's as far as the people selling you these diet products ever go. They're like, oh well, Mediterranean diet, well those people eat this, therefore that's all you got to do, you know. Like and I think that's kind of oversimplifying something very complex.
Mm-hmm.
And even that, like with diets, something that another thing that bothers me is the focus on calories alone. Like that that's a measure of energy. It it doesn't paint the whole picture. There's a lot more involved. It's like the type of materials you're putting in your body, you know, fats and proteins and things like that, and carbohydrates and stuff. Like all of those things, calculating things only on carb or on calories is again oversimplifying things and might not necessarily give you the
Eh,
exact results you're looking for.
it it is effective, and that's and it makes sense because energy is actually kind of what it's all about. So
Mm,
your
that's true.
body requires roughly 2,000 calories a day. It really depends on your metabolism, your BMI, like a whole host of other things, but it always comes down to utilization of energy. So if you already have a lot of excess energy, it kind of translates into, storage effectively, and that's where you kind of start getting fat and balloon up and stuff.
Yeah.
um, because on a biological level, you go into all this glycosis stuff. It's way too complex and high level for this episode,
Yeah.
but
But that's important to note that it is a complex system. It's not
right.
super simple.
But I mean, it you can kind of simplify it in the fact that if you look at calories as like gasoline or whatever, and you've got some spare gasoline in your tank, around your stomach, if you just don't fill up as much, then you'll just tap into the reserves, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens if 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 everything is, functioning correctly. Like uh it helps to, like, and all these diets you'll see the little asterisk with exercise, and like that's the key thing,
That's
right?
yes, that's the important thing and this is where a lot of these fad diets, um, the problem that I have with a lot of these fad diets is they kind of give the impression that all you have to do is take this magic pill, do this magic thing, and your life is going to be good. You don't have to have any lifestyle changes or anything. It's like, no, you probably are going to have to exercise. That's part of the equation. Like that, if you want to actually lose weight, you're going to have to cut down on caloric intake and the resources you're taking in, and be careful about what it is you're eating, and exercise. Like burn some of that energy, get your body moving like that. But so many of them ignore that, and it's like, it's exactly, well, I guess actually it'd be important to ask the question, in your opinion, why do you think most diets fail? Because that's kind of a trend, that people start a diet and then they're back to their old weight like a few months later.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? So most of the time when you see a person that's been on a fad diet for a really long time, they're still kind of chunky. A lot of the times it comes down to dedication. Things like these Atkins and paleo diets and stuff like that, where you reduce your carb intake. Theoretically, that'll work, but those diets also build in a cheat day, and that just that one cheat day will erase all the starvation you went through in the previous week. It like resets your system, and then you have to trick it into thinking, oh, we're starving again, and you just kind of float around. You'll lose some water weight in the beginning. It gets you really pumped. You think it's working, and then you just constantly remember that. You're like, well, it did work. I just have to keep going, and it'll start working again. But you keep having those cheat days, or you're not exercising, and your body adapts.
And I think a lot of the programs out there tend to give people the impression that things are linear. Like you're going to lose 1 pound or a kilogram over this period of time or something, and that just simply isn't how it works. Like there's a point of diminishing returns. Like you said, the water, losing that's easy. That happens fast. But as you go further into the diet, you get less and less gain from more and more effort. And I think that's where people start to lose hope.
I mean, the best diets that I've had, I think I lost 30 or 40 pounds by getting full body radiation.
I don't recommend that for everybody.
Well, even better than that one, and slightly less hardcore. I think I lost 50 pounds from getting a divorce. I mean,
oh man,
really? I mean, like the granted, I have a fast metabolism.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, I could probably take in like 4,000 calories in a day, and it's like gone.
Well, there's the flip side too. When I was trying to bulk up and working out a lot, I was ripped. I was cut, but I was lean, and I wanted to put some mass on. So I started eating clean, and I'm going to talk about that later. And like 3,000 calories a day, lots of small meals, which I probably shouldn't have done because I already have a fast metabolism. So that might have worked against me. But I was eating 3,000 calories a day and working out, and I still lost weight.
Well, I experienced the same thing. I back when I was working at an industrial robotics company, there was a lot of moving around, a lot of physical exertion, and I got really hungry. And there were many, many nights I would eat like 3 ultimate cheeseburgers from Jack in the Box every freaking night, and it didn't faze me. It was like gone. And I told people that, and they're like, "Oh my God, 1 ultimate cheeseburger would have I like put on like 6 pounds." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, how is that?" But I mean, yeah.
think those things are like 1,600 calories a piece.
Yeah, yeah, it's like most of what you need in a day in one cheeseburger. Oh man.
But
Yeah.
so the whole clean food or like non-processed food, that bugs me. Uh, like, what's not a processed food? Like, do you think that the fruits and vegetables are fresh because they were picked that morning?
Hmm.
You know, that when you're at Safeway or whatever, like,
Well,
I mean,
it's
there's,
actually that kind of connects with the GMO discussion and things a couple different discussions we've had. The idea that natural things are somehow superior or better for you, and it's like, well, I don't know that there is anything that's actually natural, and I don't know that it really is better. In fact,
right.
sometimes processed foods could be processed in a way to make them actually better than what you could find in nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean,
it's
like just the very act of making fruits and vegetables more accessible by not having them rot right away
yeah.
automatically gives you the benefit of having access to them,
Oh,
right? Like,
sure. And processing for removal of bacteria or dangerous, harmful things and making things more nutritious. My mom used to always like get all flustered about breakfast cereals, how they'd spray on vitamins, and I always thought, what's wrong with that? Like it's necessary nutrients we need. And she's like, oh, but they're chemicals. And I'm like, yeah, but so is the whole universe. It's all chemicals. It's not like just because it's something that's man-made doesn't make it somehow less viable, I guess. But it can. Um,
cornflakes were invented to stop people from masturbating, but
yeah,
how old did that work?
yeah. Not so well. In my experience. Wait a minute. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And uh, that's a good point that people, well, like the paleo diet and all this stuff, the idea that, oh, because our ancestors ate this way, it must be better. It must be better because that's the way we ate things back a long time ago.
They also ate like every 5 days and had to hunt
Oh,
for it and like
and,
take
and
down
they
a giant beast.
and they ate fucking lead. That was a thing. So like that was a sweetener. Like, yeah, I don't know about natural things necessarily being better. I mean, there's no reason to be, or to, you should always be a little bit cautious with the things that you put into your body. There's nothing wrong with that and doing some research and being skeptical and stuff. But there's a point where it crosses the line, I think. And I think these kinds of diets definitely do that. They sort of deceive people into thinking that, well, it just goes back to the idea of like that there's this magic bullet. Like, oh, you just need this one trick to lose weight. Well, really, it actually comes down to really super simple things. It doesn't take any tricks or any kind of like special diets. It's just like eat a little bit less and burn a little bit of energy.
Yeah.
Exercise a bit, go for a walk, ride a bike, get on a treadmill, whatever you. Well, have sex too. That
Yeah.
if that's your
Yeah.
poison, that burns a lot of energy. Or thinking actually, your brain uses a vast amount of energy.
Oh yeah. I've
So
sweat from thinking too hard. Like it really does. Like I could feel heat coming off my head and everything.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
now
and
there are techniques like little minutia things that do work, like they're science backed and everything. You just have to kind of like dig in and do the research, but it's all like work. It's
yeah,
exercise stuff. So like for instance, if you uh, lift weights and focus on your legs, uh, especially late in the day, while you sleep, as the muscles repairing, it's burning calories while you sleep. and it's burning more because muscles in the leg are huge and they take more calories to repair.
Yeah.
So all night you're losing weight. Like, whereas normally people are just laying there completely dormant and getting
Yeah,
fat.
well, yeah, the idea that you could sit and like watch TV or YouTube. Not saying you shouldn't watch kitchen sink microscopy because it's freaking awesome. Definitely do that, but do it in moderation. Like
to watch on the treadmill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. But the idea you could like, yeah, it does require some effort, some measure of dedication. You have to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no, okay, well, maybe crack might be a solution for losing weight. Hey, kids, this is crack. That's an option, but probably not the best idea. Don't take my advice. But yeah, oh man. So is this the point where we try to sell our kitchen sink microscopy diet program?
Honestly, why not? That wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, look at all the science and craft a plan that most people could feasibly pull off with the least amount of effort. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, another little thing, and granted, I kind of see where this ties into like processed foods as far as preservatives and stuff go, but reducing salt in your diet takes a good amount of fat off, and it's like the stuff that clings to your muscles too. So like I had almost no body fat, but I still couldn't see my six-pack, so I cut salt out for a couple weeks. Boom, there it was. Like, it was all it was adjusting the flavor of my food a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't even really it wasn't a diet per se,
Kinda, but bonus points for not saying sodium, because we all know it's sodium chloride that is being talked about, and sodium is an elemental metal, which is very reactive and explosive. If you put it in your mouth, yeah, well, it would be a bad day.
It'll be on fire before it even gets to your mouth. Yeah. It'll just spontaneously combust when it reaches the air.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
Oh man.
Which is fun, but don't try that at home, kids.
Well, don't put it in your mouth. Put it in like a fish tank over there or something like that. You can see some spectacular like alkali metals and stuff, cesium and stuff like that. They're a lot of fun. But yeah, don't eat it. But yeah, that always bothers me is the people keep saying sodium. It's like, it's not sodium. It's sodium chloride. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like, well, and that's something that's kind of what I was getting at in the very beginning, is it's a lot more complex than one simple variable. There's a lot of variables, especially if you're talking like general health of your body, like the type of nutrients you're taking in, what proportions you're taking in, and things like that. It's not just one thing like calories. But yeah, when you're talking energy and calories, that's the measure. And I would encourage everybody to investigate exactly how that is calculated. It's actually rather interesting.
It's so confusing.
Yeah.
There's the big C calorie and the little C calorie, kilocalories.
Kilocalories, yeah. That's the thing. Even again, it's like, is it calories or is it 1,000 calories? Like, what the hell? What's going on here?
Like, that's where even metric can be confusing. It's like, can't you just call it something different?
Well, and maybe I think it's technically kilocalories, but
the big C one, yeah.
It just like confuses people, so they just reduce it down to something easy. And maybe that does everybody a disservice, because it doesn't give everybody the whole picture. not that people are inclined to investigate things or try to understand things. They just like watch the news and watch infomercials and Billy Mays here and like, boom, you know, this one trick to fix all your problems. Gonna make your life better. Just buy my product.
I mean, that would be like calling a football field 1 yard with a big Y instead of a kilo yard.
Wait, what is 300? There is nothing. Yeah.
Trilo yard. Well, hey, speaking of that, so we got once, twice, thrice. What comes after that? Thrice? Four ice?
Four ice?
I think it's
That's a good question. Yeah, I always kind of wondered about those terms. Like, why do they stop there? Huh. Life must have been a lot simpler back in the day.
We should create like a kitchen sink wiki where we define words that should exist and don't, like thrice.
Then what's five?
Five
ice? Yeah. Oh man.
Fiefs.
So I actually kind of want to like circle back to the idea of the natural thing, like this idea that because this is prevalent in a lot of ideologies, the thought that, oh, you know, hundreds of years ago things were so much better, people knew how to do things back then. But it's like, did they? You know, I mean, maybe, okay, could you argue maybe they had a simpler life, right? Life might have actually been a lot less complex and maybe in a certain sense less stressful. If all you had to do was get up and tend to your farm or go fishing or something, yeah, that could be a little less stressful. But they weren't some kind of geniuses that knew the right way to live. So the idea that we should mirror their actions as a way to improve our own lives doesn't always apply. And the same thing with these diets. That like they're like, oh well, you know, people 1,000 years ago ate this way. The Romans, you know, they ate this way. But yeah, but they ate it off of lead plates. They were poisoning themselves. Their water supply came through lead pipes. Like, not everything old is wise. That's a soundbite right there.
Appeal to tradition, appeal to nature. There's all kinds of logical fallacies that go along with dieting, and
yeah,
yeah. I mean, you know, I don't want to say it's like all exercise because, you know, like I was saying when I was trying to eat clean or whatever, eat really well, it was, you know, like cooking fresh chicken and boil, or, you know, like steaming broccoli instead of, you know, slathering it in butter and stuff. Well, actually butter's good.
No, yeah, that's true. Except it wasn't a while ago. Like, oh, butter's bad. Now it's good. Eggs are bad. Now they're good. You know, salt is bad. Now it's good. Wait, no, it's bad. Like, it just keeps. And that's the thing. It's like nobody fucking
moderation.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. And so I would ask people who think that you know, the ancient ways of eating or living life or something, if those were so much better, and everybody that's the way to be healthy and live a good life and stuff. Well, okay, why was the life expectancy back then like 30 years and now it's 80? Like, you could live to 80 now in a first world modern place quite happily too. Now you're not like hooked up like a cyborg to a bunch of life support machinery. You know, you just naturally live that long. Back then, you would be lucky to make it to 30. Okay, a lot of it had to do with other dangers other than what you were eating, and disease and stuff, things that we've sorted out mostly. But that's the thing. It's like, I always think like, evidence, right? Like if you make a proposition that this thing is better, I would like to see evidence for that to support your views. And well, yeah, if people didn't live that long back then, and we're living a lot longer now, longer, healthier, happier lives. Like, so.
And I mean, it's a correlation thing, right? You can't necessarily pin diet on life expectancy alone.
No, but it might have been a component. I would never say that it's like the entire thing. I think that's, again, oversimplification.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we have more knowledge about how to, safely prepare food and things like that. And like back then, it would have been real easy to get sick from what you ate.
Oh yeah. Dollar Chinese. Oh. Oh man, that chicken was so good though. But we didn't die. We're still here, like a decade later, talking about it. So, yay for technology and progress. Man, when you came out of that, you came out of your room, like you were so green. Like I was making coffee and you came out like after the Dollar Chinese incident, and I felt like a little bit sick. But you were like up all night puking and stuff, and then you came out of the room, like pulled the curtain back, and I was like, "Oh man, you were like green." Like, dude, are you okay?
Well, yeah, that was really dumb of me, and I didn't have any biology background, but I should have known better anyway. Like I was eating that Dollar Chinese, watching some Red Dwarf, and then I looked down and noticed the chicken was undercooked, but I was like, oh, but it's so juicy. I just ate the whole thing. I just yummed it up.
Rolling the dice. Oh man.
And oh boy, did I pay for it.
Yeah, that was bad. Oh man. But the thing is, medical technology improvements and stuff, 1,000 years ago, that could have been, we'd be dead maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, even today, diarrhea is like one of the major killers in the world. And now, in the US or whatever, people are like, oh, I'll just take some Pepto-Bismol or some Tums or something like that, and good to go. Go back to work.
You have died of dysentery.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to be pretty old to get that.
Well, and that's the thing is like, it like, there has been progress, and not basically, I guess I'm saying, like, don't be a Luddite. Like, not everything modern and technological is bad. There can be bad things, but there are bad things in everything. So yeah, like, but people, like, it's a whole like natural versus artificial kind of thing. People automatically think, oh, it's an artificial thing, artificial sweeteners, oh my god, it's dangerous. Like, no, really, it's not. I mean, again, it's all chemicals.
Well,
even natural sweeteners.
You did a recent minute microscopy. Actually, I think it came out today as we're recording, about historical perspective. So 200 years from now, the same way you were looking back and saying, wow, they ate off lead plates, how dumb is that? People 200 years from now are going to be like, wow, they were walking around with just being bombarded by so much radiation from all their cool gadgets, and they'll probably have a fix for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the 5G woo people are actually right. Like, it's possible. I wouldn't completely dismiss them, but I will mostly dismiss them.
My 5G phone can barely make a phone call, much like listen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how
how
much energy is it really giving off at that point? But that's kind of what I was getting at with that video, is like, if you think you know everything today, well, there's going to be a bunch of people hundreds of years from now just laughing at you. Like, there was a time where people thought radium was a good thing to ingest. They thought, my dad was telling me a story like when he was a kid about how a shoe store, they had an x-ray machine. You put your feet down on this plate and it would show you the bones in your feet. Like just shooting x-rays right up into your balls, you know, like, or whatever you had, you know, I mean, but it's like, people didn't care about that. Asbestos is another thing. Everything, they made asbestos pillowcases, asbestos like baby clothes and stuff. Because the thing is, it didn't catch fire. That was the thing that was the critical thing. But now they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Long-term effects, we didn't realize this.
You're not going to like it, but you know, the main reason we catch so much stuff like that now is regulation.
Well, okay, that's a whole different conversation. I would say it's actually understanding and not regulation. And also business is another thing. Like, you don't want to kill your customers. That's bad for business. But we do have that particular topic on the docket to discuss. So we will definitely go into that. But yeah, like, we're constantly learning, and we're exposed to new things, and we invent new things and create new products or something, new chemical compositions and stuff. And we think they're safe, but you never know. And only in hindsight do we realize whether they were, or do we recognize whether they were dangerous or not. But that's the whole thing. It's like, not everything is good because it's natural, and not everything is bad because it's artificial. In fact, it can actually be the opposite. You just have to know what you're dealing with. You know, and that's something I firmly believe in, and I would implore people, like, if something scares you, if something is deadly or dangerous or something, you should strive to understand it. Know your enemy. You know, like, don't just be oblivious and be ignorant and just assume that it's dangerous or that it's good because of some kind of whatever thought process that you have. And definitely, if somebody is trying to sell you some kind of get rich quick scheme or get thin quick scheme, it's probably bullshit, and you should definitely be skeptical. Not necessarily fully dismissing it, because maybe they're onto something. It's totally possible, but then again, do your research. Like, look it up, read some stuff, understand the processes involved, I guess. Okay.
So that made me think of something that is pretty related that we should talk about here. What kind of health merits do you think there are for pushing the whole thin agenda? Because, you know, there are a lot of diseases that come along with obesity.
That's true. Over a certain threshold, that's the thing.
Yeah. So it's like, generally, the lower your body fat, the better your musculoskeletal structure will be, the better your arteries will flow, and this and that and all that. I mean, a lot of that has to do with cholesterol and various other things, but many of those things ultimately correlate with obesity. So
yeah,
it's like, but there's been a recent push socially to be more acceptance of quote unquote fat people. What do you think of that? Do you think that's actually healthy, or do you think it's just looking for a reason to not put the work in, or you know?
Well, yes. I think both of those points are true. Okay. So there's the social aspect, then there's the physiological / scientific / health aspect. Um, like if somebody's overweight, you shouldn't have any kind of, you shouldn't look down on them, right?
Right.
That's just their current state, right? They're a human being. They have a mind, they have ideas and thoughts and things like that. So there shouldn't be any stigma in that regard. But the idea that, yeah, because I think it's kind of gone a little too far in that regard, where it's almost dangerous, where it's telling people like, oh, that's a good thing. And I don't think it's a good thing. It, it's a health thing. It's like any other health situation. It's kind of like, well, we shouldn't shame people for being addicted to heroin. Like, well, no, we shouldn't, but we should also be mindful of that and try to help them, because
right.
that's a health situation.
Yeah, it's like, don't shame them for their choices. Just, like, try to help them be healthier. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's all it is with, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that just dig on someone for being fat or whatever, but for the most part, a lot of people think, hey, you might not have such a sore back if you lost a little weight, maybe your your arteries would be a little clearer if you change this about your diet or whatever.
And maybe the history is a problem here, in that, a lot of people who are overweight are kind of the butt of jokes and things like that. Yo, mama's so fat kind of things. Like, okay, well, and that is still carried on today, and maybe that needs to die. And we need to start looking at things less from a sociological standpoint and more from a health/science standpoint, I guess.
Yeah.
And have conversations about things like, hey, you know what? Maybe you should do these things. But it's very difficult to have those conversations when historically those kinds of conversations were not positive. And so I would prefer to see less, I prefer to see more acceptance of just having that conversation with people, and people being supportive. Like, support is a big thing.
Oh yeah. Well, when I was a gym rat, I used to see a lot of memes about, there'd be a fat guy on a treadmill or whatever, and there'd be somebody like making fun of him or something, and it's like, why would you make fun of somebody who's working to better themselves?
That was exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, because I've seen very heavy set people like riding bicycles or jogging and stuff, and I've known people who would laugh at that, and it's like, why? That should be something you support. Like, they're trying to better themselves. Like, you should be like completely supportive of that. Why make fun of that? Like, okay, here's the thing. It's like if somebody skinny is starting to lift weights, and you're going to make fun of him because he's like, I'm drinking milk, I'm going to be buff one day. It doesn't matter the state you're in right now. It matters your goal and how you stick to it. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'd be more inclined to mock somebody for starting a goal and just giving up because, it's too hard or something. Like, okay, yeah, that's dumb.
Well, yeah, it's just, if you're gonna make fun of someone for being fat and make fun of them for trying to not be fat, you're a dick. Like,
yeah.
What are you not gonna make fun of them for?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get skinny and hot, they're totally gonna diss you, and it's
and they should, exactly. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and that's something to consider too.
Not that you can't be hot if you're not skinny, but
yeah, and it's possible, like, absolutely. But
and it's individual taste too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Like, personal taste. what you like, you know, things like that. And I know people who don't like people who are not skinny, like super skinny, like they just aren't attracted to them. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever, you know, like I encourage you to have an open mind and try to see beyond that. Um, yeah, but yeah, like it, it's okay. I, oh, more beer. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that was somewhat related to diets, even though it's not necessarily like a fad diet thing. It's just like the whole point of diets, right, is to move away from that body type. And it's
well,
like,
no, you actually bring up a really good point, because a lot of people who are dieting to lose weight, they're not doing it for health. They're doing it because society expects a certain standard. And if you don't meet that standard, you're subpar. And
yeah,
so people do these diets. And, you know, the thing is like, well, see a need, fill a need. Businesses are, crop up to fill those gaps. And they sell you all this snake oil bullshit, which most of it is, by the way.
yeah,
Um, to that feeds on that feeling of inadequacy. Um, and I think if people came from the standpoint of feeling adequate by default, but realizing like, okay, you know, all of this extra fat on me, this is a problem. This is a health problem. And I want to live to be 80 or 90 or 100 or something like that. Um, I got to do something. And I think society should be more supportive of that. And yeah, like there's nothing wrong with like personal tastes and stuff like that. If you like a particular body style or something, like whatever floats your boat. Um, but this kind of dismissal and belittling of people for simple biological differences, you know, physiological differences, I guess, is wrong.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
and because people are more than just the way they look on the outside.
yeah, and there's a lot of, I mean, tastes change over time.
That's
Um,
true.
you know, like because people always point to, well, you know, there's so many body dysmorphic problems with society today. You know, like women are supposed to fit into double zero pants, and you know, men are supposed to be ripped and chiseled and buff. And then you go back to like the Renaissance times, and women were a little thick around the hips, and you know, kind of soft and curvy, and men were ripped and chiseled and buff, but with small dicks.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I
but things
actually that
change
was
over time.
yeah. Well, and I'm not just over time culturally, but also in your own lifetime too.
Yeah.
You may have a particular taste when you're a teenager, and when you're in your 40s, it's a different taste. Than when you turn 80, it's a completely different taste. Um, yeah, that was, I was actually going to get to that too. The idea that a long time ago, um, people with a little bit more bulk, shall we say, were viewed as being sexy.
Yeah.
And uh, like, because here's the thing, back then, the poor people didn't have access to a lot of food. So they were skinny. So if you were skinny, you were poor. Like, oh, you're just some kind of street urchin. You're, you know, oh, you're a poor person. It's the royalty that have access to like copious amounts of food, and they're eating all the time, and they're all, you know, chubby and big bellies and all this stuff. And that was seen as like attractive
Oh
because,
wow.
yeah,
Nowadays it's the reverse, right? Because
yeah,
the really good for you food is more expensive, and the really crap
Yeah.
food is cheap. So the poor people now put those two things together. That's interesting.
Well, and yeah, and if you actually look at that, like people in a higher socioeconomic level tend to be thinner,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people in the lower level tend to be heavier. Not saying that, like, you know, because they're buying cheaper, more processed food that they're necessarily heavier, but it's a
Can't afford a
complex
gym
system.
membership and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
well, and knowledge too. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like, how active is your lifestyle? That's another thing. You know, if you're homeless, actually, well, if you're homeless, your lifestyle might actually be very active.
Yeah.
Um, so you could be thin.
I haven't. I don't think I've ever really seen like an obese homeless person. At least
Hey,
as
that's it. The kitchen sink microscopy weight loss plan. All right, quit your job, live on the street. Boom, you're going to be skinny and fit in no time. Yeah, no cost too. That's the thing. This is totally free. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
yeah. If only Billy Mays were still alive, he could
Oh
sell
man, I
that.
miss that guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
But wait, there's more.
Oh God. I really enjoy so I even though they're cheesy, I really enjoy infomercials, and I think they have a place. And I think some of the products are actually pretty okay. Because it's kind of low level, like it's the lower rungs of invention. Um, People coming up with wackadoodle ideas to solve some kind of weird problem that maybe only a few people have, but it's really ingenious, and it probably doesn't work, but it's very enjoyable to watch the infomercials. And yeah, I
Mighty
love them.
Mighty Putty was actually pretty cool.
That's true. Yeah, that was an
Yeah.
epoxy, like two-part epoxy kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Actually, that reminds me, because I have a boat, and I saw this video of what was it called, like flex tape, I think. That I saw a demonstration where there was like a what was it, like a fish tank with a hole in the side, and it was like spewing water, and the guy just grabbed a little patch of flex tape and was like, and like it stopped. I was like, what? Huh? Like, how is that possible? If that actually works, that is a really useful product. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the same. I saw one where there's like some tape and you could like put it on a brick and just stick it to a wall and it just stayed there, and then you could stack stuff on it.
Oh, yeah. I think that's that stuff that's like a gel or something like that. That
And you
that
could like take it off and it wouldn't pull the paint off. I was like, how do
yeah,
you do that?
that's like some kind of witchcraft or something. Like, we should probably do like reviews of some of these things,
Mhm.
because I think some of them actually work and some are bogus.
Yeah.
But how do you
Well,
know? I mean, you know, if there's a salesperson selling you something, they're going to use every trick in the toolbox. You
yeah.
know, they're going to have like perfect lab conditions to test their devices. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, this works in every situation." I want to put it to the test. Like, let's test this shit. Let's see if it
Yeah.
really works.
I'll admit I'm a sucker for that stuff sometimes. Like I I got like $100 do-it-yourself laser hair removal, hot wax strip unsightly hair removal. But it was just a little handheld thing, and I'm thinking like, oh, it'll be like a Type 1 phaser from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I'll just hold it down and it'll be like,
Oh
but no, it's
man.
like it's like you click it and it like shoots a blast of like laser light, and then you gotta like wait 4 seconds for it to recharge and then move it ever so slightly.
Oh.
So it took like 2 hours, and I'm like super hairy from testosterone treatment, so I'm like sick of it. So I'd have to do like my whole front, my whole back by myself, like this.
Oh.
And I went through the whole rigmarole for as long as it said, and it did nothing. And I was like,
man, wow.
Damn it.
Well, and it's the thing is, some of these things it's possible. Like,
yeah,
from
but I mean,
from
I
the
guess
descriptions.
that's like the fad diet psychology, though. I fell
Yeah.
for it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think the takeaway from this really is the important lesson is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Diets require work. It requires dedication. No matter what. I mean, you could just look at it from a scientific, statistical standpoint, like energy in, energy out, consumption stuff. Like it's pretty straightforward. There's no like shortcut to that, aside from crack. But
or radiation.
Yeah, radiation. But the thing is, there are definite consequences that you probably don't want to undergo for those things.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're going to have something that it's like completely safe and completely easy is bullshit. There's no such thing as a free lunch, or there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. That's the phrase from Heinlein. It always takes work. Going back to my coworker, like he's on like a 500 calorie, maybe it's like 600 calorie a day diet.
What is that, like 3 nuts? Like,
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, he's lost a lot of weight, and I'm like kind of concerned because there's some potential health problems from losing that much weight that fast and that low of a caloric intake. But it's worked. Yeah, you eat like a salad and a veggie burger or something, and that's it. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
but that's the thing. It's like that's the level that it takes to actually do that. You can't sit and eat 3 ultimate cheeseburgers every freaking night and then take a magic pill and expect like, oh, everything's going to be good. It's not possible.
well, okay, so that in theory and in practice is almost always true. But how do you explain 2003 when you and I ate Wendy's burgers like twice a day sometimes, and we were like super fit, and all we did was like drive around and listen to music and steal milk crates.
I think I would give it our high metabolisms, and maybe the fact that like we had an entire fridge full of nothing but ketchup. Maybe that was the factor.
And like a pint of mayonnaise.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that we were still pretty active at that point. And yeah, the thing is, like, every body is different. Not everybody is different. You and I both have very high metabolism, so we're always burning energy. Like, I'm just sitting here at the computer and I'm probably like burning 10 times what most people are burning. In fact, I'm actually getting really hungry right now. And
it's because we're always thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so if you're not one of those people that has that kind of metabolism, you can't look to us as an example of like the right way to do things, especially if we have an infomercial.
Right.
You know,
but we're the exact type of person that could write a book about how to lose weight and people would just buy it because they'd see us.
And maybe we should. I don't want to deceive anybody, but it'd be nice to make a few bucks. I would rather, honestly, like, I think it would be actually kind of interesting to create a diet plan that actually works, that's based on not just like, oh, it's only this thing, but it's like, okay, if your situation is this, this is what you should do. And if your situation is that, then you do this over here.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be a one size fits all solution, because there's no way that could work.
I'm a big proponent of excuse me.
COVID.
That's a good diet plan. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
nothing but skin and bones. Oh wait, no, bones.
I'm a big proponent of exercise, and I think I'd like to plug Jeff Cavalier. He's on YouTube. He like trains movie stars to like get buff and, you know, record time and stuff. He's got a lot of really good videos on how to get to that minutia stuff that I was talking about earlier. Like, I still use a lot of his techniques when I exercise to this day. And if, you know, a lot of what he recommends is like how to do things at home, you know, so like you take away that barrier of like, well, I don't feel like going to the gym, or, well, you know, I can't afford a membership.
That's actually a good point. You know, people think that you have to have a gym membership. You've got to use the gym equipment to lose weight. Nah, you could have like some buckets of water in your house, or like I have the spiral staircase. I'll just like do pull-ups on it occasionally. You know, you could do push-ups on any floor, anywhere, even on the dirt. It doesn't require any specialized equipment.
Well, so there's an exercise called the farmer carry or something like that, where you just pick up 2 heavy things, dumbbells or whatever, and you just keep a good posture and you walk. You just walk carrying these heavy things, and you're holding them out so you don't like smack your legs, right? And that is engaging your entire body. It's an entire body workout. And that the name of it tells you like why people back in the day weren't fat, right? They were farmers.
Well, especially poor people, because they were like farmers and they had very little resources. And the fat cats, that name, you know, they had a lot of gold and resources, and they just didn't do a lot. They didn't have to, and that's why they were heavy, and the agrarian population was more thin. But yeah, the important thing is like figuring out a way. The important thing, I think, is figuring out a way to make exercise fun. Because if you just get a treadmill or an exercise bike and you put it in your living room and you watch some videos, you're going to tire of it really quickly. So you have to find something that engages you, something that like you enjoy, like hiking or bicycle riding. I mean, bicycle riding is actually one of the most recommended ways of exercise, because you have hills, you have valleys, you're going up, down, you're coasting, you're working really hard, but the scenery is always changing.
Low impact.
Yeah, or no impact, really. I mean, your feet are just on the pedals, and I mean, okay, maybe your what's the coccyx? Coccyx, I think it is, that bone, the one that the seat always like hits you in, like, oh.
The tailbone.
Yeah,
the tailbone, the taint, the balls, like all of it crammed into those uncomfortable seats. I don't know why they can't just have like nice, big, fat, wide, cushy seats, but they don't.
Well, and then they got that seat with the hole in it, which I'm like, wait a second. So my balls like sink into this hole, and then I go over a bump, and the seat's like and like squishes it. Like, how? What?
I hate bikes.
I always ride like standing up. I never sit on the seat. But that's just me. But oh man, wow, this is we're about a little over an hour now, so it's probably about all the time we have for today. Probably a good point to wrap things up. We covered quite a lot, but I feel like there's kind of a lot more we have to cover.
Oh yeah, no, that was a good one. I think it would be cool to have a guest on to talk about maybe a specific fad diet.
Yeah.
But it was good to get kind of a general overview. And
well, it's kind of how we do things. This is kind of like a starter episode. Like,
yeah,
okay, we've talked about a bunch of things, but now we want specifics, like personal experiences and things like that. And actually, it'd be interesting to bring my coworker on, actually to talk about several different things, but dieting would be another one. His own experiences and stuff. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Or any other viewer, if you've experienced or attempted a diet or succeeded in a diet, like I kind of want to hear that particular tale. I think that would be valuable. And if it's interesting, we'll have you on and you could share that and enlighten other people. Because that's what we're all about here on Kitchen Sink Microscopy, is enlightening people.
Yep.
And, keep an eye out for the infomercial. We're going to resurrect the corpse of Billy Mays to sell the Kitchen Sink Microscopy diet plan.
I'm working on the beard here. I just got a diet black.
Well, who better to sell our particular diet plan than a guy that's about as skinny as you can get now? Is that too soon?
Ooh. No, he died in like 2009, so I think.
Yeah, that's good. Billy Mays was a legend. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. All right, well, hang out for the song and pick it up at patreon.com/KSMVidcast, or if you can wait a few months, it'll come out on Spotify and all that.
Yeah. Thanks for deep sea diving with us into fad diets and biology and sociology and everything else. Yeah.
Being fat and happy, dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking rich.
Oh, well, on that note, have a good night, everybody.
Never been afraid of the dark. Mama never held my hand. Always been the one in control. Always wanted to